good morning guys, and welcome back to the Lake District. Come to a place today which is relatively out the way and somewhere that I haven't really photographed at all before. And it's completely different. It's got a completely different feel to the normal Lake District shot, and that's kind of why I like it. I like a more wild and a more rugged feel to my images. And this side of the lakes has certainly got more of a wild feel. Now, obviously not really sort of a completely wild feel, but it's got less of a manicured feel about it, and I really like that. We've got the Langdale Peaks off in the distance back that way. Obviously we've got this lovely shaped tarn with that sort of S-curve that runs round there, which is really quite nice. So I think looking at it, there's a couple of shots for me here. Maybe there's a hill behind me up here which I can gain a bit of elevation and kind of get a better overview. But also with the Langdale Peaks back in the distance there, I think there's some nice long lens shots as well. So I'm going to experiment with a wide shot and then some longer lens shots, because you can see there's bits of light hitting the fells off in the distance there, and that can make for some really nice interesting images. Now today I was a bit concerned about the weather because it was forecasting white skies all day, but as you can see there's plenty of texture and detail and drama to these skies, so I think there's plenty to work with today. And now it's, even though we're heading into spring, it's pretty cold, so we're going to spend the day here and try and experiment as much as we can, because I'm trying to get that into that sort of state of mind as well, is to spend a lot more time in one location and try and make the best out of that one location, rather than trying to race around and get different compositions everywhere, is to make as many compositions in different variations at one location as possible. So I'm going to spend as much time in this little area here. There's some little tarns further off in the distance there. There's obviously this one. There's another one back over that way. So I'm going to explore this whole area today and see what we can come out with. But yeah, hopefully I'm thinking there's at least a couple of images here if we can stand the cold all day. Now obviously sunset's a lot later at this time of the year as well, so I don't think sunset's happening until about 7:45 tonight. So it's going to be a long day, but I think it's definitely worth putting the time in and seeing what we come away with. Now, one thing I've noticed with gaining this bit of elevation is down below there, I managed to grab a shot which I'll pop up now, which you can see. The difference is, there's a couple of differences. First thing being is, up here I'm getting a lot more of the surrounding countryside in, and that's good, but in the same token it's bad as well, because as I was saying before, I quite like the wild rugged feel that this has got here, and there's a couple of things take away from that a little for me with this elevation. If I get up here, now what I can see is there's a lot more buildings actually come into view, because I've gained that bit of height. I'm looking down onto them, and those buildings have come into view, and they weren't there when I was shooting down below there. It looked a lot cleaner, it was a lot wilder looking, and not as much sort of human activity going on in the shot. The other thing I've got happening here is I've also got a boathouse which is now coming into view with gaining this elevation, and that's nice in one way again, but in the other way, if I want that more wild feel to my images, that's giving that more human element again. But that's the good thing about coming to an area and experiment, and I can experiment with two things. Yes, I want wild looking images, but I can also add that bit of human element into it as well to get a different feel to my shots. So what I'm going to do is, now that I've got this elevation up here, I'm going to embrace that basically. Even though I wanted those wilder looking shots, I'm going to embrace the fact that I've got more human elements in this and actually take this shot as well, so that I can look back at them and see which one I actually prefer. Or I've actually got two different styles of image for my portfolio. I quite like the fact that that boathouse is off to the left there, and what I'm going to actually do is set you up on the back of this camera and get you to the back of my viewfinder and walk you through actually what I'm seeing through it, and then you'll get a better idea of what's happening. Right, so what I'll do is I'll press record on the back of here now. Right, okay, so what you should see is I've got the lake down in the bottom here kind of going round in an S-curve, and the Langdales are beyond that now. Now there's showers of rain moving through, so it's going to look slightly different because that's probably going to blank out what I was actually seeing on the back of here. But as you can see, what I'm actually focused on is that group of trees down in the distance there. If I just select my focus point, you can see that now. I'm pretty much in the centre of the frame on that bottom third. I'm in a 16:9 aspect ratio because I think that works quite well. I'm at f8, ISO 100, and at the minute I've got a shutter speed of an 80th of a second. Because there wasn't any wind at the time of taking it, now I'm probably going to have to readjust that because now the wind's picked up because this rain's moving in, but you get the idea of the shot anyway. You can see that I've kind of got three aspects to this image. I'm using the thirds, so I've got the lake in that bottom section of the image, that bottom third. I've then got the kind of middle section, which is where the houses and everything are, and then beyond that I've got the Langdales in the distance there. So I've got those three layers and three different elements to the image that I quite like. Now, as I was saying, you can see those houses down in the bottom there. You can also see that boathouse. And it's just going to be a case of actually waiting around for this light to hit. Now, it's not going to be the best at the minute because this rain shower is going to pass through, but maybe once this rain has actually moved through, it'll give me a bit of light to play with, and hopefully if it does, this will be the shot. So Gav, we've made our way up to this little sort of tarn. We were told about this by a walker before because there's a lovely little boathouse on here, and thought it would make quite a nice shot, quite a different shot. But we've kind of investigated around this area, and there's not only have we got a Land Rover parked behind it, which wouldn't be an issue because we could kind of clone that out, but there's a lot of clear fell, and it's been recently done, and I think there was probably a shot with the trees behind this, using that as a backdrop and using the water in front here, but that's all been felled and it just looks a real mess, unfortunately. On top of that, we've got quite a messy shoreline. There's lots of branches and stuff like that in the way, which I thought again would probably work as frames, that sort of thing, but it's just too messy. There's just too much going on in the scene, so I think it's going to be kind of a bust here. I thought maybe that we could get further around the tarn as well and maybe shoot back towards it to kind of get rid of some of these distractions, but there's no way of getting further down this side here. So I think we're going to have to call this one a bust and going further back to where we were and then try again. So I've actually come back to where we started before and actually dropped a little lower, and I'll be able to show you better now why it looks better without those houses and probably without the boathouse as well. I've come further across to the left and got lower down, eliminated the boathouse and eliminated the houses. So I'll be able to show you, if I'll set this up on the back of the camera so you can see what I'm seeing, and you'll be able to see the difference from where I gained elevation before to what this scene looks like now at a lower level. Right, so if I press record on this now, what you should be seeing is I've got this in a strip pano format, and I've also got the wider lens on than I had before, because obviously I've got down lower and I've got down closer to where the little tarn is. That spit of land that sticks out down there, I'm actually focusing on. So I've got my focus point set on one of those little bushes which is out on that spit of land there. I'll just select that so you can see it. So what I'm looking at doing is I'm at f16 at the minute, ISO 100, and I've just been underexposing it just a touch again, just for the clouds, because I just would like to retain the details so I can see what it's going to look like. I probably don't need to do it, I can bring it back in post, but I like to expose it just one stop under, just so I can retain that detail and see what it's going to look like. Obviously at the minute the rain is sweeping through that valley again. Every time I go to speak to you on this the rain comes through the valley, so you can't actually see what's going on back there. But basically what I'm waiting for is a bit of light to light up this foreground area, and also a bit of light to light up in that valley back there. The clouds at least have got a nice bit of detail on them, but as you can see looking at this format now, where before I had the boathouse in the shot and those houses in the shot which were down in that lower part of the valley there, they've now gone. So to me it looks like a cleaner frame, and you don't have any distractions of white buildings standing out or anything like that. It's just nice, clean and simple, and I think it looks far better for it. So hopefully what I'm going to do is just wait around here for a little while for that light to develop, and then when I get a decent shot I'll pop it up for you. Right guys, while we're waiting for this light to develop, there's actually another shot that we've picked up on, which is almost like layers of mountains and then layers of clouds above. But I'll press record on the back of here so you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. So what you should see now on that lower third of this panorama, I've got the hills in two different layers. The first layer at the bottom and then the second layer of the hills behind. And then you've got kind of clouds circling around the tops of those hills. And then above that you've got a line of cloud, and then above that in the top third you've actually got a darker layer of cloud. So it's basically lots of different layers, and just waiting for a little bit of light on those peaks there just to kind of bring a bit more life to it and a bit more interest. But basically what I'm at the minute, I've got my focus point just on that lower third again, just on one of the peaks there. As you can see, I'm at 2/50th of a second, f7.1 ISO 100. Now it doesn't really matter about my f-stop because I've got no foreground at all, so I can play with that and get where I want to be for a nice balanced exposure. So I'll wait for a bit of that light to happen and then grab the shot. Now as you can see, it's kind of getting later and later in the day now. We've been here the whole day and just worked on this whole area, just tried to make the most of it. And it's only about an hour now, I think. I'll just check, and I think it's only about an hour till, yeah, it's an hour till sunset now. And as you can see, we're socked in with cloud. There's not a great deal of light. It's pretty flat looking now, and I'm starting to think it's not going to happen. But we've been here all day now. We've kind of committed to the place. And my worry is when I leave these places too early is, have I left too early and then it happens when I'm on my way out? And it's a worry I have all the time. Every time I go out somewhere, I think, do I call it? Do I just pack it in now? Do I not bother anymore because it's not going to happen? Or do I just stay till the very last minute and then hope that something happens? Because, as I said before, the thing that can happen, well, I've seen it happen before. I've left a scene, I've walked back to the car, I've got back to the car, and then boom, suddenly the sky goes off and you think, oh, if only I'd kind of held out. And I think it's a decision you have to really make yourself. You have to kind of come up and say, is it worth hanging around for? And I think if you've committed to spending time in one area for the whole day, I think you should see it through. See the whole day through, no matter what the conditions, because it just takes that, 10 minutes of good light and the whole day's been worth it. So I think it's definitely worth sticking with. So guys, as you can see, the light really never happened. There was a little bit of sunset light which was off in obviously the wrong direction, and actually where we were wanting to get the image, absolutely nothing. It just went really dark in that valley, so there was just no chance of getting an image. But it was definitely worth sticking around to the end because, as I said before, you really don't know what's going to happen, and if you leave early and it does happen, you'll be a bit gutted, I think. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. Like and subscribe if you have. I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.